Next up in the world of news that isn't really all too surprising, we're heading over to the fourth period because on David Pagnotta's recent piece, What Happens in Vegas Doesn't Always Stay in Vegas, there was a little tidbit of information towards the bottom of the article that I did think was interesting enough to talk about in a video. Take a look at the here and there section of the piece after it goes over the entire Jonathan Marchessault conversation because, of course, this article is titled, What Happens in Vegas Doesn't Always Stay in Vegas. Going down to the last point that David Pagnotta writes about in this article, the LA Kings will look to trade Arthur Kaliyev this summer. The pending RFA has asked for a trade, and GM Rob Blake will try to move him, perhaps package him in a deal to improve the roster elsewhere. So, this is a very small sentence, but it is something that I think bears talking about, because when it comes to Artie Kaliyev, as Pagnotta goes out there and labels, he was one of these guys that I think exhibited a very odd and maybe not ideal development path into the NHL. Kaliyev is 22 years old, 6'2", 209 left-handed guy, and he is signed by the LA Kings till the end of this season. He is an expiring RFA. He also was drafted by the Kings in the second round, 33rd overall in the 2019 draft, a pick that a lot of people, myself included, said was an absolute steal because Kaliyev was ranked to go somewhere around the mid to maybe mid-late first round. 13th by Elite Prospects, 21st by McKeans, 21st by Bob McKenzie, but he dropped all the way to 33. Why is that? Well, if you were around the NHL draft scene 5 years ago, you would have known that Kaliyev had himself a really good offensive productivity metric. He had 102 points in 67 games played and 50 goals, but his defensive play, his off-puck play, his engagement when he didn't have the puck on his stick, it was all very questionable at best, and back-checking was a concern as well. There were many things about Arthur Kaliyev's game that made him some sort of a red flag prospect in some people's eyes. But the LA Kings took him second round, one of the first picks in the second round, and he immediately became one of the top goal-scoring prospects in the LA Kings system. Fast forward a few years, and Arthur Kaliyev gets 28 points in 56 games played in 22-23, but then this season he has only 15 points in 51 games played and 0 games played in the playoffs with the Kings. He ended up getting very limited ice time towards the final few games of his LA Kings year. I mean, look at this. 9 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes. And it's not like he's getting, hurt. He's in the lineup every now and then. It's just he doesn't really play. And even though he was able to score some goals here and there was a long dry spell that Arthur Kaliyev went through this season. And it's highlighted now by his decision to ask for a trade. This article that was published by David Pagnotta was then summarized and written about even more on this website, MSN.com. Yeah, I'm kind of confused as you are. MSN, like the messaging service on the Windows computers? Either way, Brian LaRose went out there and wrote this. Kings winger Arthur Kaliyev has asked to be traded, and it goes over a rough timeline as to how everything went down. Kaliyev put up a respectable 14 goals and 13 assists in his rookie year in 21-22, and followed that up with an improvement in 22-23. Accordingly, there was reason for optimism that he would take another step forward this season, while ideally playing a little bit higher in the lineup. None of that happened. Instead, Kaliyev found himself a frequent healthy scratch, especially under Jim Hiller, who had the interim tag lifted to become the full-time head coach earlier this month. Along the way, Kaliyev managed just 7 goals and 8 assists while logging less than 12 minutes a night per game. Then, when the playoffs came, he was scratched for all 5 games in their opening loss to Edmonton. While Kaliyev's stock isn't at his highest right now, he could be an intriguing buy-low candidate for some teams. 71 points over 188 career NHL games is relatively decent for a player who's just averaged over 12 minutes a night over that time. Meanwhile, this article goes out there and says his qualifying offer, it's just $874,000 and he does not have arbitration rights. Coming off the year he had just had, it's hard to see him commanding much more than that on a 1-year deal. So, my question to you is, if you're a fan of the LA Kings, firstly, what are your thoughts on the idea of Kaliyev asking for a trade? And secondly, does it really surprise you? I don't think it should, but if it does, let me know in the comments why. Do you think if Kaliyev does not get traded, is he actually able to rebound? Does he get back to 30-point form? Is he able to attain higher highs? Does he get to 40, 50 points in a season if you just give him the right development and ice time? I mean, ice time especially. The guy was playing 2-3 minutes a night some games. So he really wasn't utilized, but at the same time, I've seen a lot of critiques from Kings fans saying, yeah, the guy isn't really playing like somebody who deserves more than what he is getting right now. Some of those same issues that we had seen in his junior days that ended up dropping him in the draft to the second round, those concerns, some of them are very real. So with this in mind, does it make it a lot easier to say, yes, sorry, Kaliyev, we're just not going to proceed forward with you? Because even though the profile of this guy is honestly kind of perfect, 22 years old, smack dab in the middle of his growth development period, he's coming off of a really strong goal-scoring season in 22-23, there's a lot of ammo to believe that this guy could only get better, but he did not. His goal scoring did not really continue to grow, and now he's frustrated. So if you're an LA Kings fan, what are your thoughts on the progression of what Arthur Kaliyev has done so far, and do you think that all that is going to come to an end with the LA Kings this summer? If you're a fan of any other team, what are your thoughts on the idea of taking Arthur Kaliyev? Is this one of these guys that you don't really get because of the defensive stability? You don't think about what he does without the puck. You don't think about what he does in the defensive zone. You just say, screw it. We are putting you on the #1 power play spot. We are putting you on that wing. You are firing pucks into the goal. And if you're getting a goal every 2 or 3 games, and that's all we care about, doesn't matter how badly you play defense. Is there more of a goal scorer's right to be given out here? Or do you prioritize, hey, this guy is very good, but we cannot let you play like a cherry-picking machine here. You're supposed to be a hockey player, so play hockey. Hockey is played in all 3 zones, not just 1. There are a lot of philosophies here, but of course, it all just depends on who believes in Kaliyev the most and who's willing to take the biggest risk to get him. I don't think that he's going to be worth all too much. I mean, he was a second-round pick in the first place 5 years ago, so I'd say maybe if you wanted to put a price tag on him, maybe a third or a second if you wanted to really stretch it, maybe multiple thirds. The thing is, if you had traded Kaliyev at this time last year after the really good season that he had, then of course his value would be a lot higher. It's just now we're starting to see the warts, that some of those things that plagued his game in the junior days are still there. So I do kind of question where the Arthur Kaliyev conversation is going to go, especially now that Jim Hiller is going to be sticking around for a while. They already committed a bigger role to him, the LA Kings did. So there isn't really any reason for Kaliyev to be optimistic about where he's going in the eyes of the LA Kings, unless he goes out there and really works on his cardio and his conditioning and he becomes an absolute hound off the puck, which he's not going to. I think we're kind of doomed to see the Arthur Kaliyev experiment continue in LA any further. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as to Arthur Kaliyev requesting a trade and where you think he could excel the most. What system do you think would benefit a goal scorer like him more than the LA Kings could? If you're a Kings fan, let me know your thoughts. If you're a fan of any other team, what are your opinions on your team potentially grabbing this prospect? Not even prospect anymore. Yeah, no, my bad. He's played a few full seasons in the NHL. But thoughts in the comment section either way. I hope you enjoyed this video. 99 and bye.